Hey guys, Chase with EOTECH. I'm here with Blake and Kyle from Blue Bearing Solutions down in the Blue House, and we're here today so I can teach them how to do CQB. So I'm here with the guys from Blue Bearing today to talk about a pretty important topic that we're all passionate about for different reasons, kind of the same reason, and that topic is whether or not civilians should train CQB. People expect law enforcement at various levels in the military to have some degree of training for close quarters battle, close quarters combat, whatever you want to call it. But it seems to be contentious for some reason whether or not civilians should have that training. And so because these guys have vastly more experience than me, I'm going to open this up to them and let them answer it. So Kyle, you want to lead it off?
Yeah. It's a great question. I know it's something that in the past 2+ years I've been asked this, or I've saw things where people are very anti-training civilians in CQB, and I think we should really dissect the why train in CQB period for whomever, right? So they're tactics and techniques that you use to dominate a room, a space, a structure with a team. And it mainly applies to tactical teams, military, law enforcement teams. But one of the things is, if you've ever learned how to do CQB, that as a part of that learning, you start to look at things differently. You look at things differently because you're trying to learn how to process information extremely quickly and make these critical decisions when you're already going to be in fight, flight, or freeze. I don't care. That's a human response to these types of environments where it's the unknown, and especially when you're going against a hostile force. Learning how to safeguard your bandwidth in those spaces is going to free you up to do all these other things, and ultimately free up the space to be able to make these decisions very rapidly. You know, trying to find the threats versus the non-threats, and dominate this structure very quickly. So I bring that up because that point alone is a massive reason why I believe that using CQB training and training with civilians will help them free up their bandwidth in a home defense. And if they're transient on their way to work, if they get held at gunpoint, it's only going to help them look at things differently. And I think as a byproduct of them looking at things differently, they're going to be a harder target. They're going to see the gaps in their home defense. They're going to see where the vulnerabilities are because they've done this team-based CQB training. It's not like for Blue Bearing, we're not training militias. We're not training civilians to overthrow the government or whatever. We don't do that. There is a massive difference between paranoia and preparation. So preparation is where we focus, and it's taking ownership of your own self, your own environments, and having agency in your life, and protecting innocence, right? So it starts with your home, your temple, right? So I think that's my big why, is because of just the aspect of learning how you're going to start to see things differently. You all go through rooms, through doorways every day, whether it's in your home or at work, or just out in your normal life, patterns of life. So you're going to start to look at things differently, and then you can think about what it looks like in a near optimal team condition to take a room down, but then now you're by yourself, or maybe you have your wife, your kids that are part of that team, and they can be like, hey, you grab that bag, hey, you call 911 while you're working on this. But you have to have practiced this, because the guys and gals that come and do the courses, the CQB centric courses that we offer, they go home and they take ownership of their lives. Yeah. And I think that is my answer to the question of why civilians should train in CQB. It's not to train your team tactics or militia. No, it's to train your home team, right? Your office to be a harder target, because what is that? That's a deterrent.
Yeah.
So they see this hardened target, camera system, dogs, fences, all these little things. You see the gaps. Then you fix those gaps in your own security. And then you carry the tools you need, and you have these techniques, but you know how to slice that pie up and look for work and be proactive with your own environments, because ultimately you are your own first responder, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's something you brought up too, man. Is Kyle mentioned opening up that bandwidth as you get some more of this training, and you mentioned being your own first responder, and also interacting with law enforcement either during an event or post event, whether there's a shoot or not. So you want to touch on all that?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, law enforcement is going to do their absolute best to get to you as fast as possible. But the realization is that fast as possible, right? The fastest response time is anywhere between the 5 to 7 minutes. A lot that goes on, you know. So let's say something happens where somebody does come in your home. You know, you have to figure out what's going on, which is going to take a couple minutes. Then you have to coordinate somebody to get on the phone with 911. And that alone is going to take 2 to 3 minutes because you're going to have to answer a whole lot of questions before they ever even dispatch, because they have to get suspect information, what's going on, address, is anybody hurt, anybody have signs of COVID. You know, there's so many questions that are going to be asked that you're going to have to answer when you're like, please send help, but they have a whole list that they have to go off of. Well, then once they're done with their questions, they go on to the computer to see if there's an officer even available. I know in the city of Fayetteville, we're broken up into 3 districts, and each district has 5 officers working. And a city of 500,000 people, that's not a lot. It's 5 officers per 125,000 people. That's crazy to me. So they have to find an officer that's available. And then if that officer that's supposed to be in your area might actually be all the way on the other side of the city, helping out another violent call. So it's very important, guys. I used to try to get there as fast as possible, but I was always there after the fact. And it's important for you to be able to set a plan, train as a family. You know, don't be paranoid or don't try to be a militia cult family. You know, just be a family that's prepared, because law enforcement is I hate to say it, but you know, we're there for the aftermath. We're there to take the report. We're there to get suspect information. We're there to do medical. We're there to do all those things, but we're not going to be there for you the most important time, and that is when you're trying to deal with the obstacle or the suspect or the intruder, whatever. So, you know, in my family, there is a bag in our bedroom that has a tourniquet and some medical stuff. My wife knows that she's automatically going to get on the cell phone and call 911. My son is upstairs. He's 16 now, but he's going to stay in his room and he's going to hold his position until we are able to link up as a family. And those are things that we've prepared, because I know, coming from law enforcement, I know that response time is 5 minutes feels like 5 hours. Especially if I mean, guys, there's been times where my squad has only had 3 officers because 1 was sick, 2 were on vacation. And when I worked I think it's the 10 to 6 a.m. shift, I would take anywhere between 37 calls to 52 calls a day. Times I didn't even eat. And those are a lot of calls, because, you know, you have all these violent calls that are coming in, but what you also have over here is these old people complaining about cats or loud neighbors. And, you know, calls don't really get prioritized the way that they should. So, you know, if you live in a violent city, your response time is you are going to be your own responder, your first responder. So I think it's highly important that you guys, civilians, train in their home and in a CQB environment, for sure.
Yeah. So I'll put this out to both of you. People are seeing this. Hopefully they're getting the message. There's something they should do for training. What's the best way, if you're going to go from maybe I'm thinking about buying my first gun all the way up to somebody who's, you know, what we call an enthusiast? They are on social media. They're interested in the topic, but they have no formal institutional training. How would you line them up to sort of start that journey from, you know, beginning to, well, there's no end. You're always a student for life. But how would you recommend they start seeking out and prioritizing that training?
I mean, so there's a ton of training companies out there that offer open enrollments. So we're one of them. We have an open enrollment this weekend. It's the structure takedown course. And what I love about those open 2-day enrollment courses, or there's a 1-day that we offer when we travel, it's a mixed course. You have LE, active military, you got private citizens, but working together in that course, regardless of where they're at with that level of skill. That's on us as a team. Any good training company should meet you where you're at individually. You're paying to be there. So that's where we've just really, you know, continuing to grow as a company and as a training company, as trainers, and just refining that, our ability to do that. So just remain curious, right? And come do some of these open enrollments. There's a ton of other companies that offer this as well. But I think the other thing to highlight too is well, having, so the open enrollment side is one way to do it. There's a ton of remote-based training. Like I know for Blue Bearing, we have a Patreon that we have a whole CQB series that's going to start into a home defense series, a solo response actions. But I start with the basic template of a basic small unit like type tactics, stuff that you can find in the Ranger Handbook, stuff that you can find in the 7-8 Infantry Tactics Manual, right? So a common misconception is that, and I'll speak for myself or for this company, we're not teaching any tactic or technique that we weren't shown, right? I didn't create a tactic or technique, and there's things that I don't teach private citizens. There is the basic principles of clearance, of room clearance, right? There's the basic of a threshold assessment. There's the basic fundamentals of marksmanship. There's all these things where you see some of these other companies that are like, no, I don't teach CQB to civilians because that's all secret. Like they're God's gift to tactics and techniques. And I say they're full of shit. They haven't created a single tactic and technique they're shown. There's things that I don't show, but so much of this is context of the environments where I use some of these basic principles and connecting dots to law enforcement, to military, to private citizens that are in the right place at the right time, and they are the right person. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's basic principles of things, just like they do on all the flat range work with other companies or even with us. It's the basic fundamentals of marksmanship. Trying to isolate and remove as much of the human error into mechanical tools, right? All those things. It's the same with simplifying what will be a chaotic environment, but doing it in a controlled training environment frees up that person's bandwidth to make sound, moral, and ethical and legal decisions, to protect innocence, to protect themselves. So we're not teaching secrets. We're not teaching all these things. It's basic principles of room clearance, basic fundamentals of marksmanship, and connecting dots, right? In their home, their patterns of life, their environments, and empowering them to building their confidence to take action, to take ownership, and be prepared, right? To tabletop these things, talk through them, walk through them with your family, your work environments, because it's a matter of not if, but when. The unknown comes, right? So you want to be able to just take action and do that quickly.
Well, and like you said before, it lets you take agency in your own life. No one else is going to live your life for you. So the fact that you guys are empowering people to do that it's awesome. And Blake, do you mind talking to a lot of people, and I don't know where this came from, but I have an idea that if they have training, that's going to be a legal liability for them. So from your experience, someone's taking agency in their own life, they're seeking this training, and what happens if they do end up having to employ lethal force? I know it's generalities, local, national, state laws, all that, they're different, but what have you experienced with that?
So the most important training that you can do is not CQB. The most important training that you can arm yourself with before you ever get into CQB is knowing your state laws and what you can operate in. Like I know North Carolina is 15-401D2. That's the use of deadly force. So I still remember that. And I've been out of law enforcement for a while. And that is my authorization that I know will save me from going to jail. As long as I operate under that standard and under that general statute, I'm going to be okay. So
as a private citizen.
As a private citizen, right? Because know your penal codes or general statutes or whatever. Study case law, read the subsections in those statutes and know what you can do. You can use deadly force to protect yourself or a third party. You can use deadly force to do anything where you feel like that your life or somebody else's life is at risk for either bodily harm or death.
In your state.
In your state.
Understand what they are in your state.
In your state.
So every state is different. And that's why you need to study your penal code or your general statute, and you need to operate under what the guidelines of your state is, not what North Carolina is, not what Florida is. California is different. Operate under where you live and study that, because that's the best thing you can do is to arm yourself with that bit of knowledge.
So where would you recommend they go to find that? Is it?
I mean, it's a
county
part
office
of
building, or is it-
your. If you get a concealed carry permit or a license to carry in wherever state you are, it's a part of the course.
Yeah.
Right.
You're supposed to cover the legal the regulations, the legal side of the right to bear arms.
But
right. So
a problem to that is now a lot of states are open carry
permitless carry?
So that's where this goes back
So they have
to
to acknowledge
the right to bear. This is the greatest country on the planet, and I believe that in my heart. And the right to bear arms is a part of why that's the case. However, there is a ton of people that are carrying the guns and are negligent with it. How do I say that they're negligent? Because they don't even know the use of lethal force in their state, and or they're carrying it for the wrong reasons to on their hip to show people that they got a gun. If I'm carrying, it's for me and to protect what I care about. And once I show you that I have it, I've already made a decision. So, and that's not premeditated. I just know what a risk to my life and to what I care about is. And I also understand what that law is in this state. And anytime I travel to other states, we do our homework. So that's a part of, like I said in the beginning, taking ownership of your environments and the tools that become an extension of you with proper training. The techniques become an extension of you with proper training. So it's about taking ownership and being prepared, not paranoid. We're not training militias in CQB. That is not what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, and guys, keep in mind that inherent with freedom, which is a word that's been bandied around a lot and may seem like it's losing meaning, but the original intent of that is there are inherent risks to being free, and they come with moral responsibilities. And that's what these guys are talking about, is it's incumbent upon you to take ownership of your own life, be your own first responder, but part of that is educating yourself, not just in tactics and techniques and all that, but in legal statute, right? We're a nation of laws, and trust me, you don't want to be in a nation of not laws. You know, we've all messed around in those countries before, and it's suboptimal. So appreciate what we have here, but part of that is on you to educate yourself
You
appropriately.
know what we had though when we were in those environments? We had America's values and the laws, the laws of land warfare, the rules of engagement.
We're still operating under laws.
We just because we go to a country that doesn't, we still take ownership of who we are.
Right.
You know, so now I think not now, but let's continue to do that as American citizens, and be a protector.
Yeah.
Like that's what we need. We have to protect innocence, and not everyone can be a protector. So the people that can be, it's your responsibility. You know, if you have the ability, it's your responsibility to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to touch on something real quick too with the open enrollments. Kyle, you talked about it. You know, all of our courses, it's cool because it's half civilians and private citizens, and it's half law enforcement. And what I think is so cool about those courses, especially like with the structured takedown, which is pretty much home CQB, right? Is these private citizens get to get reps in and hear, you know, how law enforcement would respond from them and not just me, and it gives them the confidence, because I hear a lot is, what do I do if I'm afraid that I'm gonna get shot if police show up at my house and I have somebody at gunpoint? Well, deconfliction's huge, and we teach that.
Yeah, we spend a ton of time on
and you guys and the citizens that come and take our courses, they leave here with confidence, knowing, okay, well, if I ever have to encounter somebody with police coming, I know how to deconflict with them when they arrive on scene. And I think that is huge, because not only do you hear it from us, but you hear it from students who are active law enforcement officers in the course, and they're telling you also, yeah, like we're not just going to show up and shoot you. Like, we're trained professionals, and that gives you guys, private citizens, the confidence to say, all right, I can protect my home and not worry about law enforcement. Because no law enforcement, guys, is going to, they shouldn't, right? They shouldn't enter a kicked-in door and be quiet little ninjas in the house, because and if they are, and something happens that should not fall on you. But, you know, police presence, you know, police, we're entering the home. So you're going to be able to hear all those commands, and it truly gives you, mixing in that that citizens and law enforcement, private citizens and even law enforcement leave here confident knowing that each side is going to do their job correctly because they've learned that knowledge.
I'm going to add, that's a great point. And one of the things that's I've also seen, I know we've talked about this before, was that the students come together and they grow individually, they grow together, and then they go back to their homes, but they leave with that confidence in the skills, but in each other, right? So think about law enforcement have to see the worst that this country has to offer almost on a daily basis. And that you can become so jaded about our society. And I don't envy that. And that's why this company even exists, because I want to help sharpen the edges of our first responders, but, and the private citizens, and they get to see the great Americans that are out there paying their way to be here, traveling all over the country to come to these courses. And that builds their confidence in to be proudful of our culture, of our society, and the people that are in it, right? And then on the other side, just like the private citizens, they only really see the things when they go horribly wrong, from a law enforcement perspective on social media. So there's both sides to it, and they all leave feeling this sense of pride in their country, to leave this country better than we found it.
Yeah. Well, so the last thing I want to touch on is some people, especially if they don't, or maybe even if they do have a military law enforcement background, but they don't have a SWAT background, they don't have a SF background, anything like that. I'm one of those dudes. We were talking about this before. The degree of CQB training that I got in the Marine Corps was close to laughable. They did their best, not knocking the Marine Corps at all, but leaving that institution, I had comparatively very poor training to what was even available at the time, let alone to where we are now. And so some people feel intimidated, right? They're like, oh my God, Blake's a monster and he did all this cool stuff. And, Kyle's with, one of the most important national mission units in history. And they can feel very intimidated coming to those classes. But not only are you guys super down to earth, approachable people, but you're presenting information in a very digestible way, regardless of skill level. So what would you guys say to people who are like, man, I bought my first rifle, I've been in the range a few times, I know this is important, but I just feel nervous about it?
Well, that's a great question, and because remain curious is my answer, right? So remain curious, vet your instructors, show up. We provide the training rifles, the training pistols, the ammunition for the courses. You could show up with nothing, we'll give you everything. You just have to have an open mind, an open mind to learn, and let us meet you where you are. And that's where I go back to vet your instructors, read those reviews from people that have taken courses from all these great training companies and maybe not so great training companies, and just vet your instructors. But that's where I love the teaching aspect of this, is the challenge of doing everything you just said, and removing pride. Can be so expensive, but it doesn't have to be.
It can cost you your life.
Yes, it can. And I say this, like, don't let paper targets defeat you. They're there for training, right? To take away certain feedback from training, discriminate a threat, non-threat, shot placement, things like that. But some people are so afraid to push themselves, right? And this is remaining curious. My kind of answer to the remaining curious statement I made. Push yourself. It's on the instructor to figure out where you're at, and then once you've opened that up a bit, is now give you things to tighten that up and isolate one aspect. You have to tie together so many things, So it's as an instructor, we have to meet that person and give them individual feedback for growth. Right. That's where, like on the range, I tell people right now we're going to do something where the wheels are going to come off a bit. I'll demonstrate what I mean, and I'll demonstrate the speed at which I'm moving is a little bit uncontrolled, almost, but only for that specific thing, right? And I show it on a part-timer, and I show it on the target, and then I'll let the students do it individually, and then to push them, because some people still, I'm like, you haven't even started to break the lug nuts, man. Yeah. Like, let's go, and but not to train in that space, just to respect it. So just to respect that space, because if you continue to train, that space will increase. Like your level of skill will increase. Yeah. So if you find that spot periodically in controlled environments, and then you can back off 20%, and that's the optimal space for growth, in my opinion. It's the same with this stuff in training in a home defense or in a close quarters environment, and seeing. And that's what the beauty of a team coming through this, or 1, 2, 3, 4 man, not a team. They don't know each other. Come in together. You have different levels of skill. You can put one dude that's a little bit more advanced in his skill with 1 or 2 that aren't, and they bring each other up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's cool,
That's so cool. And then they can take that away and go back to their home and do that with their family, in their work environments, and look at things differently. That is my biggest takeaway from this conversation, is the reason that civilians should train in CQB is because you will start to look at the world differently. And it's not paranoia, it's just preparation. As you walk up to this doorway, the first thing I look at is hinges, because I'm gonna set up opposite of hinge side on a hinge door, right? To get the first look. But it's simplifying everything in my mind so I could focus on processing the environment, life, right? And making those critical decisions under stress.
Absolutely.
Talking about people feeling intimidated, right? Like civilians that would feel intimidated to do this. I think we do a really good job at, obviously people come in and you can tell because they'll pick a cubby and they'll sit down and they're looking around, they're kind of overwhelmed. But then we'll just come up and just start kind of bullshitting with them, talking to them. And, I'm going to eat lunch with you right next to you. And we're going to joke and you're going to pick on me by the end of it. I'm going to pick on you. And we're going to turn this into a really fun experience. But the moment that we enter that other door that goes into the shoot house, it's seriousness. But when we come back out, we'll joke, we'll hang out, we'll talk about God, we'll talk about personal things and personal struggles. We'll talk about, how we're moving forward and when we did a course in Texas couple last month, and one of the guys was like, man, I wasn't sure if I really wanted to do this. I was kind of nervous. He goes, almost didn't come, but he goes, man, I'm so glad that I did because, you and Kyle have made this such a fun experience. You really the first hour I was just wanted to be real quiet, and it was the guy from the oil rig, right? And by the end of it, he was literally joking on me, and I was giving it right back. And he was like, man, this is the funnest experience. And if we're not making this fun and enjoyable, and this is, or if I've been told before that from an instructor that I looked up to at one time, and he said, well, I don't wear crop precision pants when I teach courses. I wear jeans. I said, well, why is that? He goes, well, a lot of students wear them, and I don't want them to, they don't need to look at me as if I'm one of them. And I'm like, what? That's not I'm going to be doing reps with you. He's going to be doing reps with you. We're going to be sweating together. You're going to see me make mistakes.
Right.
And you're going to see him make mistakes, less mistakes than me, but you're going to see that. And we're going to talk about it. And I'm going to come out here and we're going to keep joking and know that I'm not going to do that again. And because we're human.
Yeah.
And we want this to be an atmosphere that you just come back and just keep training because we're making this fun. And we're giving you quality reps that you need, because when it's time to be serious, Blake's going to be serious. The moment we come out of there and we're just joking, we're going to crack jokes and we're going to talk. And that's what I think really separates us from a lot of companies, is because we eat the same food that you eat. We sit right next to you and eat with you. And we suck when you suck, and we sweat when you sweat, and we mess up too.
We grow together.
And we grow together. And I think that's what really makes Blueberry such, man, this is like my family.
Yeah.
This is I swear to God, this is not a job to me. This is a family to me. And it's incredible that, and people see that when they come train with us, because they leave feeling as if they're family too.
Yeah.
And I know that.
Well, because they are.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to add, man, if I can, is
family.
Is the reason why Blue Bearing is teaching CQB to civilians and all the courses that we teach as well, is because it's reinvigorating my sense and pride in this country that I had at 18 years old, 17 years old when 9/11 happened. I got to do something, right?
Yeah.
And then years of just life, man, the reality, the heaviness of the job. Yeah. As I continued to push myself, something changed. It became about something different, and it was dark. So it's reinvigorated my sense and pride everyone that comes into our courses, I would break bread with, and we stay in touch with. And it's not like it's a fire and forget. We're always going to be a resource. I encourage people after they do a course or before, especially, to be a part of our Patreon, because it is truly a fellowship of protectors that we're building.
Yeah.
And we do a Zoom every Friday night at 8:30 Eastern as a part of that, a fellowship Zoom. And we've done it for 10 months in a row.
And man, that's so important. People are, between social media and the way the modern world has gone, like, we're losing community.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know their neighbors at all. And like when you start experiencing real community and fellowship again, it is invigorating and it does build that hope in the nation and in humanity and connections. Yeah, absolutely. And guys, like, part of my job is being on camera, right? Like, I have a certain expectation to be able to be competent, but this is something that I have a very low degree of skill and competency in, but I'm still going to get on camera. I'm going to make mistakes, and these dudes are going to be super helpful and encouraging. And yeah, they're going to make fun of me because I earned it, but like, it is a ton of fun, right? And so, like, if I can do that and put this out there on the internet so you guys can all make fun of me, hey, go for it, right? I love it. I really appreciate the engagement. Let's grow the channel. But like, you can do it too, right? There is nothing in your way. I understand time is a finite, most valuable resource. Money's always a thing, budget's a thing, but you're worth it. Your life is worth it, and your family's life is worth it. And the service you can provide as a protector to community is also worth it. So you owe it to yourself, and you owe it to everybody else to invest in yourself, right? So don't be intimidated. Don't be scared.
Imagine if we all did that. Imagine if that ripple effect that happens. That's how we actually make change. Mm-hmm. That's how we be the change, right? Yeah. If I'm doing that in my communities, and I'm volunteering time to do this and train on this and interact and speak on this based on the gifts that I've been given from God, mm-hmm. right? And we all go back to our communities and do that, man, we're having a different conversation about our culture and our society in a matter of a couple years.
We
right?
can already see it on social media, mm-hmm. like how social media is changing. Like, we went from a community that like, we ate our own, like, we tore each other down to look better or sound more tactically advanced on social media. And now I'm starting to see a turn of people finding, you know, their passion, their religion in God. I'm seeing people motivate, be a purpose. I'm seeing people, say, hey man, go check out this company and go check out this company. Because the realization is there's millions and millions of Americans in this country. And Blueberry can't train all of them. Mm-hmm. So there's other companies out there, and we should really focus on building each other up and trying to turn this into the greatest country in the world again. And we can do that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, it's about invoking curiosity, man.
Yes.
It is
in your life.
And you guys, that's what I wanted to know. And then we're going to go actually do some CQB and have a bunch of fun doing it. But a lot. But like, they're not just saying that, right? Like, I experienced it. The first time I came down to train with you guys, I left, and there were some things I did that were really bugging me. And I called Kyle about it, not because, he didn't pick up the phone because I work with EOTECH. He picked up the phone because he's having a man-to-man conversation about, like, hey man, I made mistakes I didn't think I should have made. It bothered me. And I don't know, you fixed me in like 10 minutes, right? And my daughter, who's 10, overheard that, and she's like, well, what did you do? What was going on? And that led me to an entire conversation where I'm like talking about CQB with my daughter, and she's super into it, right? And so like, I want to get a gun and shoot you. That sounds awesome. Like, that's Unit Solutions Training Rifle.
Unit 4.
Right, yeah, Unit 4, yeah. But like, just the fact that you guys are willing to put that extra time and invest in people immediately, now you're empowering me to train my family. We talked about before, right? You train your kids, you're training your kids. We're passing on generational, like, real wealth.
You start to see yourself from maybe an old but new perspective, mm-hmm. right? Or if you're new to this completely, you start to see yourself from a completely new perspective of what you're capable and confidence able to do.
Yeah.
And it's about building, that bubble, that safety, right? Like our spouses and children, what do they need from us as protectors? Safety and security. Mm-hmm. How do we provide that? By never getting complacent with the things that we've been shown and remaining curious about what's out there and asking questions, right? Why? Why am I doing this? How can I do this better, more efficiently? We do it all the time and at work, if in business and this and that, building systems to be more efficient. But do that in your personal life, man. Connect all those dots. If you, like I used to, just give everything to my work life and then come home and be a piece of shit, lazy. I had nothing left, cognitively and physically. There was a duality in my life, right? And now there is no duality. The man that's at work is the man that's at home because this is my family. This is an extension of my family.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. All right, guys. So thank you so much for watching. Got any questions about anything we talked about, please feel free to reach out to Kyle and Blake. Reach out to Blue Bearing. Got questions about our optics, obviously you can always reach out to us. Please do get down in the comments below and make fun of me because I love that. And it drives engagement. So if you don't do it, I don't get to read mean comments, and if you do it, we get more engagement. So I win either way. All right, but as always, guys, for real, thank you so much for watching. Train hard, live free. See you next time.